First will be Steve Lear, who is with the Jewish Community Relations Council of Minnesota and the Dakotas. Steve is identifies as a community activist and spokesperson. He's been the driving force behind several initiatives aimed at building bridges of understanding between people of different cultures, religious beliefs, and viewpoints. In 1997, he founded Nechama, is that the pronunciation? A Jewish disaster response organization that provides hands-on cleanup and recovery assistance to communities affected by natural disasters. As I said, he's speaking from the Jewish Community Relations Council of Minnesota and the Dakotas, and also has done a lot of work in local churches for several years, I believe, on the Israel-Palestine issue and presenting it from the perspective of JCRC.
To the Peace Forum, I want to first of all thank you very much for organizing this event. My father, of blessed memory, who was born in the late 20s, would have never, ever had a chance to come to this podium in a Lutheran church to discuss this issue. Your willingness to hear, listen, absorb different opinions, it's noble, inspiring, and very much appreciated. Let me start with the conclusion. The JCRC does not represent every Jewish opinion. Boy, and are there different opinions. You don't trust me, okay? But the JCRC does represent the view of the overwhelming majority of the Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota Jewish populations who hold the following beliefs. 1, face-to-face negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians is the only viable path to a long-term peace. 2, Israel is the homeland of the Jewish people. 3, there is an active, widespread campaign to delegitimize Israel, and we would like it to stop. 4, we believe in 2 states for 2 people with an end to the claim of Palestinian right of return. The JCRC believes that all people have the right to their opinion and all people are worthy of respect. These rights are vital to maintaining dignity. We believe it is important to agree to disagree. The JCRC wishes to set the record straight that the Jewish Voices for Peace and the Jewish Anti-Zionist Network are small groups whose opinions on Israel and its neighbors fall within the periphery of Jewish thought and beliefs on this issue. As founder of the JCRC presentation, Israel and the Middle East, The Challenge of Peace, I've had the opportunity to speak to over 150 groups in the last 10 years. I have heard numerous opinions on the subject and answered countless questions. One question that comes up often is, what is Jewish? Is it a nation? Is it a culture? Is it a religion? The answer is yes.
All of those.
How'd I do? We are a diverse people who share a common history, language, culture, land, and religion. As I stated in my opening conclusion, we need a cessation of the actions and rhetoric aimed at delegitimizing Israel, and we need a recognition and acceptance of Israel as the homeland of the Jewish people. This basic recognition of Israel's right to exist requires a core attitude adjustment: the acceptance of differences. I believe it is the very lack of this acceptance that obstructs that path to reconciliation and peace. I wish to share with you the moment in my life when the seeds of this belief took root. About 15 years ago, my wife and I came home from a Saturday night date to find our 8-year-old daughter intently listening to a story from the babysitter. We asked what the story was about, and our daughter said, "Nikki was just telling me that when the world ends, all the Christian people will go to heaven." "But Nikki, where do I go?" Shocked, we looked at Nikki as she hesitantly responded, "Well, we believe that if you're not Christian, you'll go to hell." That's not something you hear every day. I must tell you that Nikki was a kind and qualified 20-year-old babysitter. She was also a Christian who had been taught that the only path to salvation was through Jesus Christ, and she was clearly attempting to save our daughter. To this day, I am confident she is a compassionate girl who is simply acting in accordance to her faith. I do not believe there was malice in her actions. Nevertheless, at a loss of how to respond, we called our rabbi. He wasn't in, but his wife asked, was it an emergency? We told her it wasn't, gave her a brief recap of what happened. She said, "No, this is a rabbinical emergency." And he called. He called us back immediately and asked to talk to our daughter. And here's what he told her. "Kimmy, imagine a mountain. Imagine God on top of that mountain. From the bottom of the mountain, you can see all sorts of different paths leading to the top. Some to the right, some to the left, some zigzagging, some going straight up. Nikki has chosen one path, your parents have chosen another, but what's important is that you are all on the mountain headed in the same direction." Relieved, Kimmy gave us the thumbs up, and then she mouthed the words, "He's good." This, I believe, is how to teach people to be accepting of differences. Sherry and I will be forever grateful to our rabbi and all of our rabbis for that lesson. Many years ago, our Bible tells us the Jewish nation came together at the foot of a mountain, Mount Sinai. We stood there as a people dedicated to the idea of one God. We stood there as a people who believed that we were in partnership with the Almighty for the purpose of making the world a better place. 1,400 years later, Jesus and his followers forged a different path up the mountain, and Christianity began. Many Christians, believing that their new path was the right way, the only way to God, attempted to convert Jews to their belief system. Some Jews joined, others continued on their original journey. Under Roman rule, those Jews who chose to adhere to their faith were given three options: convert, leave, die. 600 years later, in the Arabian Peninsula, the Prophet Muhammad found yet another path to God, Islam. Believing that this was the right way, the Muslims tried to bring Jews and Christians to that belief system. Some joined them, others did not. Again, many of those who chose to adhere to their faith were given options: convert, leave, die. Imagine if those leaders would have forged new paths, said to their followers, "We have our path, they have theirs. What's important is that we are all on the mountain headed in the same direction." May we all walk in peace. We stand here 1,500 years later and the Jews are still here. I think this is problematic for some Muslims and some Christians. Perhaps our presence raises uncertainty. Perhaps our presence shakes the foundation of others' faiths. After all, by all rational accounts, we should be extinct by now. Our numbers dwindled away by crusades, by the Holocaust, by suicide bombers, by the inability to accept differences. Uncertainty leads to frustration, which leads to anger, which leads to violence. It worries me that efforts to delegitimize Israel are really masked efforts to delegitimize Judaism. This is why we believe that attitudes and motives need to be carefully examined. All of these issues that will be discussed this afternoon are important, every one of them. None as important as the acknowledgement that Israel has a right to exist as the homeland of the Jewish people. You may have expected me to produce a long list of the ways in which Israel historically extended its hand for peace, and I believe it has. or how Israel has been a good partner with Egypt and Jordan, two countries that grabbed the outstretched arm of Israel and negotiated peace treaties, please, God, may they stay in existence. But I decided to take another path. Instead, I have chosen to challenge you and my panel members to view the conflict through a different lens. Not who did what to who and when, but from a higher level. From a place where the decision to accept differences and to seek constructive rather than destructive ways to resolve conflict is a fundamental precursor to this discussion. I ask all of those of you who sympathize with the Palestinian cause to build trust and credibility by insisting that the conversation begin with an acceptance of Israel as a legitimate nation in the homeland of the Jewish people.